Happy Monday, everybody. Hope everyone had a wonderful Easter weekend. My name's Mike Jimenez, joined by Joe Garcia, producing today's show. This is the Alamo City Sports Cast coming at you from the west side of San Antonio. West Bexar County also represented. A big weekend in sports was had. It's going to get even bigger tonight. Tonight, LSU taking on Iowa in the Women's Elite Eight. I'm going to predict it right now. This is going to be the most watched basketball game of the year, guys or girls.
Highest ratings.
Yeah. Dude, I was at a bar this past weekend and people were so excited to watch Caitlin Clark play. Like, they had all these sports on. The talk was Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, that game's gonna bring in the ratings, man. It's probably the gonna be the highest rated game of the season and quite possibly ever.
Yeah,
it
could be. And it's at 6:00 tip off here in San Antonio. Game is being played in Albany, New York. LSU, the defending champions, coming on in. And, man, over the weekend, you had that write-up on the head coach over there, Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
She threatened to sue. They published it anyway. And on the other side of the country, the LA Times, they released a very racist column about LSU, and now they're editing what they put out there, saying it didn't live up to their standards. So we'll have to get into that a little bit.
It didn't live up to standards. Maybe it didn't live up to the numbers that they were wanting. They're going to retract now.
Dude, they got blasted on social media. I was one of them as well.
Jeez,
I'm a former newspaper writer myself. How they allowed that to be an editorial on the LA Times is ridiculous.
That's like the New York Times, highly looked after, outlet. That's you think you have faith in it,
Chris Bettis is on our YouTube stream. If you want to be part of the show, by the way, obviously follow us on YouTube, but also you can leave a comment or two. But he says today's game is gonna be wild.
It is, man.
And that's it right there. 6:00 tip off. I cannot wait for that. We got to get into the Spurs because the Spurs got their first winning streak in nearly a year and a half.
Not one, not two, not three.
Almost made it four. Almost made it four, but lost to the Warriors last night. Spurs shorthanded. I see these reports, and I don't know how valid they are, that Sohan might be out for the year.
I think they're going to sit him out for the year already. I was looking at his injury that he has, and he wants to play for the Polish team in the Olympics. And I believe the consensus is they're just going to wind up sitting him out because they want him to be ready to play for the Polish team, and he wants to represent his country.
Right.
So I think the consensus across the board is just sit him out.
Got some good news right now on a text message.
Nice.
So I'm excited right now. I've been working on getting guardianship of my son.
Mm-hmm.
He's not biologically mine, but I'm going through a divorce process right now.
Yeah.
And this is a way of me being part of his life forever by being named his guardian. And I just got a text message right now that the guardianship meeting is going to be in 6 weeks.
Nice.
So cannot wait for that.
Congratulations, sir.
Good news. That's my boy. I love Justin. That's my boy. So we've talked about the Spurs a little bit. The Brahmas played their first game of the season. Got a victory. It was on ABC. Part of me was like, why are they doing this on Easter? This is the stupidest thing, right? Who wants to go to a game on Easter? And as I was watching the game last night or yesterday afternoon, I thought to myself, wow, this was actually brilliant. It was something to watch while everybody's at home doing what? Eating and watching TV, right? It's not like Thanksgiving, okay?
No.
Easter's a big holiday. It's a very important holiday in the Christian community. But when it comes to like getting together as families, number one is probably Thanksgiving. Number two is probably Christmas. But Easter, along with 4th of July, is probably number 3 and 4, right? And the family was gathered watching the TV, and it's like, hey, look, there's a San Antonio team being played on ABC.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
And who they got their victory against? Was it the DC? What are they, Commanders? What do they call their team?
The DC Defenders.
Defenders, because they have a C as their logo there. But the final score was 27-12, which, great for the Brahmas, getting their first win of the season.
Playing good defense out there, man. And it's going to be hard for me to get excited about this, by the way. San Antonio Missions this morning are having media day. So the missions team is here. They're ready to go. We're going to have a lot of missions coverage as time goes on.
Maybe you said we have some players in the studio.
We can have some players doing some stuff with us. So I'm excited about that. The baddie brackets are out. We're getting down to the Sweet 16. And I accidentally had 28 names on there.
No, man.
And it was difficult to get it to the Sweet 16. So I had to make some executive decisions. Okay. The executive decision was I narrowed it myself from 28 to 24. Okay. Had to do the executive decision because mathematically I needed a Sweet 16. So I got rid of 2 of the wrestling hotties because I didn't want 4 wrestling baddies out there. It is about celebrities. And I'm sorry. Those are D-list celebrities. I don't care about Alexa Bliss, Zelina Vega, whatever her name is. I don't care about any of them. They're not celebrities. They are just D-list. Okay. So I kicked out 2 of them. I kept 2. Okay. Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton. I kept those 2. We're not going to have 4. Sorry. The nerds are not going to run this poll. Okay. Sofia Vergara I kicked out also because Sofia Vergara barely got enough votes to pass. And she was the worst performer to advance. So I got rid of her as well. So we're down to the top 24 right now. And essentially I gave the top 8 a bye into the Sweet 16. Yeah. So right now we have 16 battling out right now. You can vote on this at MJ Acquired Taste. I posted this about an hour ago.
I'm also
already a few dozen votes coming in.
I'm going to start a poll here because it is April Fool's, right?
That's right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to wait to see if the viewers have been paying attention, right?
Right.
Because if they watch the show, they know that you're infamous for your tall tales. Tall tale time, you know? And everybody loves the tall tales.
And they want to have it on the spot, but sometimes it doesn't come out.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give something to the viewers here. We're going to have a little bit of fun with them.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and see if I can run a poll. And I'm going to leave it up to them to decide if this poll that we're going to run is in fact an April Fool's. Like, is it really an April Fool's?
Okay.
Is it a tall tale or did this really happen? And I'm gonna put it out here live with you on here. And I'm going to say, did Mike actually have dinner with Jerry Jones? And if you've been watching the show, you're going to know if this is a tall tale or in fact this really did happen. So we'll read the results here in a little bit. But
okay,
that's going to be the go-in. Is it a tall tale? Did it actually happen in honor of April Fools?
There you go. I like it. And it's funny because people ask me to like just do a tall tale. And I'm like, well, you do realize that most of the tall tales are actually factual. Okay. Maybe some slightly embellished, but they are factual out there. And it's kind of funny because I don't think of these things. Like someone was mentioning Arnold Schwarzenegger the other day, right?
Yeah.
There was someone who I think Swiss or somebody did a meme of me as a Terminator. And that was a good one. That was a good one because it was an old photo that I had with Carolina Teague where I was wearing all black and I had sunglasses on, and he kind of put me on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body from T2.
God, man.
I got to be in the same room as Schwarzenegger many, many years ago. It's stuff like that I don't even remember. I was doing an interview.
Yeah.
I did not get to interview him. It was David Sears from KSAT that did, but I was helping Sears out that day. I was kind of producing what he was doing.
David Sears been on the air for quite some time.
Yeah. And he drifted out of sports and he's now doing like the midday
anchor. He's an anchor.
He's an anchor, but he also does like the entertainment stuff that they have going on. They have had a KSAT. A lot of people who've been around for a long, long time. Jesse Degollado just got honored for being a Latina broadcaster for like 40 years. She was a veteran when I was there in the 90s.
Yeah, man.
Then you go to Ken's and Deborah Knapp is there. I love
She's
Deborah
a sweetheart,
Knapp.
dude. She's super nice.
In person and on air, she is super nice. I remember when I used to work with her, I used to tell Deborah Knapp, I said, I wish I could bathe in her voice.
She's so good.
She just has a very smoky voice to herself. But shout outs to those who've been in the industry for quite some time here in San Antonio. Don Harris from News 4 San Antonio. I mean, that's a veteran. Dude, Steve Spriester was in his early 20s when he came to San Antonio. And now he's in his, early 50s. He's been around for quite some time here.
You got to give shout out to Chuck McKinnick. He's been around for a long time, too.
McKinnick as well. So there are some people there. Bill Taylor has
Bill
been
Taylor,
around for a
dude.
while.
I remember when he first came onto the scene
Yeah.
way back when with Ken's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bill Taylor, he hates being called Billy T. And so I told him, I said, I get grandfathered into that because that's what we used to call him back in the day. Who's a tall tale over here? Mike dunked on a 9-foot basket. More real. Of course, he was with Jerry Jones. Jerry invites the media to his party. The 9-foot basket. I think the 9-foot basket might be the tallest I was ever able to dunk on. And that wasn't anytime recently. That was like I was 18 or so when that happened. I know obviously I could do an 8.5-foot basket because my friend had one of those and we would do like reverses and stuff like that on it growing up.
Those,
But the 9-foot one, I think I got up there earlier on in life. 9.5, no way in the world.
I think anybody could really dunk on a 9-foot. 10-foot's a little bit. It's a harder.
Now
my
5'7" ass could never touch the rim, but when I was younger, I could get above the loops. So that you have the loops, and then you have that one strand that comes down that connects loops. I could touch the strand, which probably means I was about 3 or 4 inches off from hitting the rim.
Yeah.
But that was quite something. I'll never be that young again. I'll never have those ups ever again. But
what's your vertical now? 3 inches? We're old already, bro. Come on.
I know. Remember back in the day, you'd have like the door, railing or whatnot. And you jump up and touch it. Or, or you try to hit the exit sign or what.
You're at your mom's house or somebody's friend's house or even at school.
What the hell were we doing? Just bouncing up and down. Dude, my daughter, my 11-year-old, I dropped her off at middle school today. And, she was on TikTok and we were watching all these TikToks. And one came out about the Edgar cut. And it was the one where they showed the board of SAISD, the Alamo Stadium. And it was kind of like superimposed in there. It was photoshopped in there. And it was like, standing at 5'2", it's the Edgar and all this stuff, right? And I asked my daughter, I said, Ava, how many of the boys, give me a percentage that have an Edgar cut? And he goes, Michael, Dad, in my grade, it's like maybe 10%. But she goes, 7th and 8th graders though, it's like 30 or 40%, Dad. Almost half the kids that are boys have the Edgar. So my question is, do you go to the barber like Rios or Great Clips and go, I want the Edgar? Or do you say I want a bowl cut? Or do they just know? Or do you have to go to like a barber shop to make that happen? Does Supercuts like refuse to do the Edgar? Because I know that there's some hairstylists out there who refuse to do it. They think it's too ghetto.
They probably do it at the barber, bro.
Now, is the Edgar only West and South Side? Like are there people at Reagan High School right now with an Edgar?
I'm sure there are, dude. I mean,
you think it travels?
It travels, but of course, the majority is probably going to be on this side of town.
Chris Gonzalez says you leave the classroom, you go between your legs and touch the floor to the top of the door. Yeah, dude, that was so funny, man. Mario Cavasso says now you jump and you just throw your back out. That's basically it.
Probably, dude.
That's so funny. What are we at right now when it comes to number of subscribers right now? Because I didn't
well,
check that.
The latest from this morning before we came on the show, we're at 770. The goal for this month is 800. So the needle is moving. Plus, we have some giveaways that we're going to be doing this week and in the following weeks. So I'm sure we're going to get closer, or we're going to surpass that goal and get closer to 1,000.
Yeah, some of the giveaways, we have some Android tablets,
Spurs tickets, autographed Tony Parker photo, and all this stuff.
The missions look like they're going to be coming along and helping out with a couple of things, maybe some ticket giveaways. We are at 770 right now. The goal is 800. You said by the end of
April,
dude, we're going to blow past that, man.
I'm thinking if we keep on this pace, man, we're going to hit 1,000 by May.
By tax day, we'll be at 800. We'll be by April 15th. We'll be at. Dude, I'm working on my taxes right now. Good grief, man. Oh, speaking of taxes, last night my daughter's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Graduated from LSU. She is now a journalist. By the way, she had a remarkable story over the weekend that was the lead story or the headline story, front page over there in Baton Rouge. Over there, the newspaper matters. No. People don't read the Express News anymore over here, but there's certain cities like Houston, Austin, Dallas, and in those cases, Baton Rouge and New Orleans, where they actually do read the paper, and there's a lot of membership of it. They just read it online.
Yeah.
My daughter yesterday, I told her, I said, girl, April 15th is around the corner. You need to file your taxes. As opposed to like doing it for her, I made her do it herself. So we were on Zoom yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was kind of showing her how to do it. She freaked out when she saw that she's getting a return. She's like, what does this mean, Dad?
No.
It's like $705. What does this mean? Baby, that means that they're going to put it in your direct deposit into your checking account. She is freaking out. She goes, why didn't they just keep it? I'm like, that's just how it works, you know? Yeah. So it's so funny because my daughter, you know, graduated all A's her entire college career, you know, summa cum laude. She is a professional, but they don't teach things like how to file taxes. They don't teach things like what an IRA is and a 401k. So last night I sat there with her and I helped her open up an account. I helped her do several things because I was like, you know what? She needs to have this adulting type of education. And I was able to provide that for her, but that was very, very cool.
I like this comment right here by Chris Bettis. He says, laugh my ass off. They asked for the tapers. My younger cousin gets it. The tapers.
The tapers. I highly respect those barbers out there, those entities, whether they be Great Clips or Supercuts or Fantastic Sam's or whatnot, who come out and say, we ain't going to do that cut.
Yeah.
We ain't going to do that cut. And maybe, okay, let me ask you this. Is there a type of person that gets that cut? Like, should we be suspect of them? My nephew is one, so I'm not going to go ahead and say that, you know, it's not even in my family.
The one you bring out to the bars once in a while?
It's infiltrated. No. It's one of my younger cousins.
Okay.
He just graduated high school. It has infiltrated my family, the Edgar cut. But is there a certain personality that it fits?
I don't think so, because I've seen.
Is it gangsta? Is
No.
it nerdy? Is it follower? What's the common personality trait of someone, a teen who would get an Edgar?
I think that you just hit it right there, the nail on the head. It's a teen. Teens are easily influenced by what others are doing. So if they see everybody else getting the Edgar, they kind of want to be part of that crowd, you know, or part of the popular trend. They're going to get that haircut too.
Jesse reaches out to us on our YouTube stream, says, works at a high school, 30% is fair for Edgar cuts, mix in some Jerry curls and mullets.
Wow, the mullet's still making an appearance.
Nobody has good haircuts, man.
No.
Like, no one is high and tight, right? No one is there with a nice little haircut, a boy's cut, or whatever they call it these days.
Yeah, my kid, man, he gets I don't know what it is. I call it the fro, because he has like a lot of curly hair.
Yeah.
And it just gets big, dude, on the top. And all these kids, I call it the mop top, because it's just curly hair all on the top and it's kind of short on the side. And that's how they roll, you know, especially the ones that have all those curls.
Yeah.
But he gets a haircut. I have to get him a haircut like every 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. The Edgar does not look good on anybody.
No.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How do they get girls? Do they not get girls? What teenage girl or college age girl is going to look at a guy with a mullet or an Edgar?
You'd be surprised, bro.
My God.
If you have an Edgar and you can pull some ladies, you got game, bro. No job, no car.
And an Edgar?
And you still pulling girls? Damn.
Oh, my goodness, man. We're going to go for about an hour and 15 minutes today. Again, we're live on YouTube. We make this so that it's not dated. Okay. So if you enjoy us on the way home, for example, that's the cool thing about what we do, Joe, is that oftentimes when we look at our numbers, because we have a certain number of people who watch on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about this over the weekend, and you might push back on this. I haven't talked to you about this.
Okay.
I want to see what our YouTube numbers and Spotify numbers look like if we went back on Facebook. I know we want most eyes on YouTube.
Yeah, right? There's no pushback, but we can go to Facebook if you want to.
I want to see if it affects it at all.
Let's do an experiment. Not only will we do Facebook, let's do Twitter at the same time.
Yeah.
And YouTube, and see what the effect is. But the problem is when you go to Facebook, especially,
we can't see
you can't see the comments unless you have a device with you at the same time as you're doing the live stream.
You're doing it both ways.
Yeah.
I want to try that. I want to see, because we moved it over exclusively to YouTube about 3 or 4 months ago.
I did notice an increase right away, though.
There was an increase, but I wonder if we went back to Facebook, would people fall off of YouTube? Would they rely more on Facebook? Facebook does us no good.
Yeah.
It just gives us another set of eyes. It might help us when it comes to advertising and marketing, but that's basically about it. This weekend, by the way, Saturday from 10 to 4, I'm going to be taking part. I believe you'll be there as well. The Mike Taylor Barbecue Cook-Off, which is over off of Peacock near Woodlawn Lake. It's going to benefit the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club out there. I'm one of the judges, going to be judging the chicken.
Chicana Fuerte is going to be
Chicana Fuerte, going to be doing the beef. I got to trade with her on that one. I kind of want the brisket, man. I kind of want the brisket.
No, I mean, should be judging sausage.
Yes, I've heard that joke many times. I've heard it many times. But yeah, so if you want to hang out with me and Joe, we'll be out there. I'll be out there, I guess, from 10 to 4. Is that the whole day of judging?
I'm going to go hang out with the Bermejas, dude. I hear they got a good spread out there, man.
Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the other celebrity judges, I kind of had a crush on.
Oh, God, dude. You're in in that same vicinity as Becky from World Car, bro.
Becky from World Car. Who else is going to be out there?
You better behave yourself. We don't want no demon time.
I'm looking for the list of people who are going to be out there. Let me see here. There's Becky from World Car. Now, Becky from World Car, I mean, she's cute, but she doesn't I don't look at Becky from World Car and I think to myself, oh, she's smoking hot. But others that are going to be out there include, as we said, Becky from World Car. Judging the beef category, we've got Vanessa Martin from WOAI.
Oh, yeah.
She's beautiful. Mariah Medina from News 4 San Antonio.
And you know most of the people.
I've either know them or I've met them a lot. Lizette Hernandez from Spectrum News. Wow. She's amazing. She's amazingly attractive. But there's more going to be out there. Again, it's going to be 10 to 4 on Saturday. Chris Bett is already saying Demon Mike is a menace. Again, he menaced to society. That's just what it is. I said that to my daughter one time and she flipped. Let's get into some sports again, because we talk sports. We talk pop culture. We talk national stuff. Sometimes we get nostalgic. I want to get nostalgic about what happened last year. Last year in the NCAA Women's March Madness, LSU beat Iowa. Now, I was talking to my brother-in-law about this, and I was telling him yesterday that this is going to be the most watched basketball game of the year. Guys, girls, college, pros, this is going to be the one. And my brother-in-law was like, I don't get it. So I'm trying to give him an education yesterday on it, because he's like, dude, it's women's basketball. Who wants to watch women's basketball? No. And to be honest with you, part of me is like that most of the time. But when it comes to the March Madness, women's basketball, the drama that is there between Iowa with Caitlin Clark, who's like the Steph Curry of women's basketball. You have LSU, who's hated and has a coach that's hated. You've got
Angel Reese.
You've got South Carolina, who went undefeated all the way to the Final Four last year, only to get dethroned by Iowa, who then lost to LSU. Speaking of South Carolina, a few weeks ago, they got into a fight with players from LSU, who started, it was a little bit of both, maybe more LSU side. And then you have Kim Mulkey coming out going, the head coach of LSU coming out and saying, I wish he had done that to Angel Reese. Pick on somebody your own size. Then Angel Reese coming out and saying, I can't be part of the fight. She gets criticized because she doesn't take part in the fight. She sits her butt down because she says, I'm too important to my team to be suspended. Meantime, you've got USC, who's a 1 seed that's advancing. UConn, who's a perennial powerhouse. Texas made a run at it as well. It's amazing. But, man, we are down to the Elite 8 in women's basketball tonight. You got 2 games. LSU, Iowa on ESPN, 6 p.m. tip-off. After that, you've got UConn taking on USC. A lot of people were upset that LSU and Iowa were put in the same bracket. LSU is the number 8 team in the nation, defending champions. They should be a 2 seed. They shouldn't even be 8. They're disrespected along the way, and the disrespect continues because there was that hit piece by, I believe it was the Washington Post, right? The Washington Post released an article about the head coach, Kim Mulkey. Now, I will go on record as saying that Kim Mulkey is one of the most, I guess you can say, hateful people out there.
Yeah.
It is hard to like Kim Mulkey. Kim Mulkey is a winner, though. She wanted Baylor. She wanted LSU. She's a winner, right? But she's very flamboyant. The clothes that she wears, she looks like a freaking peacock out there. She's got feathers and boas and crap going on out there.
Yeah.
the Washington Post to release an article about her right now in the middle of the Sweet 16, Elite 8, I thought it was Bush League. I thought it was Bush League because why would you purposefully try to derail a school or a team now? And I guess from their aspect or their angle about it is that, well, people are paying attention to college basketball and they're making the run, and therefore we're going to drop that piece now.
They're going for what's hot, what's trending.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kim Mulkey got wind of all this. Kim Mulkey last week was saying, I'm going to sue your ass, Washington Post, if you write a profile on me, because people are telling me, my own players, my former players are reaching out to me, telling me that you guys keep calling them, hoping to get dirt on me.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Kim Mulkey is a nice person. And I'm not going to say that Kim Mulkey is a person that you should honor, right? But I've got two things about this. Okay. One is the timing. Washington Post knows what they're doing. They know that all eyes are on them. But it sucks to take down the champion in that way because they already have an excuse. LSU has an excuse of we are having to deal with this public relations nightmare going on right now, threats of lawsuits in the middle of their run. Now they can spin it the other way. LSU can come out and say, hey, man, everybody hates us. It's us against the world, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it gives a fire, lights a fire under them that wouldn't have been there already. Kim Mulkey is accused in this Washington Post piece of basically being a homophobe. Okay, so it goes on to say that Kim Mulkey has been very critical and very mean to her lesbian players. And that she had lesbian players over at Baylor. Mm-hmm. She had lesbian players over at LSU and has been very... Now, here's the thing. There are gay players in both men's and women's basketball. It's probably a little bit more prevalent in women's side than it is the men's side. I don't have the facts about that, but the perception is there. Kim Mulkey is also somebody who did not stand and say things in support of Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner, who was detained in Russia for several months, was a former player of Kim Mulkey's. So the people that have come out against Kim Mulkey have come out and said, look, if she gets wind that you're gay, you're basically dead to her. She's going to play you. She's going to play you because if she plays you and you can help her cause of advancing and winning and building her legacy, she will continue to recruit you. She will continue to play you, but she doesn't want to see it. She doesn't want to hear it. And she does not care about whether or not you get criticized or ridiculed or even imprisoned because you're gay.
Yeah.
Now, that's not what Brittany Griner was in prison for. Brittany Griner, that was more of a politics thing. She was caught with some substance, right? I think it was
with the
vape that she was prescribed, but that is illegal in Russia. So that's, to me, there was a little bit of stupidity involved.
It was set up, dude.
Well, there was also some stupidity in there. You don't take that to another country.
Yeah. Well, somebody said told that she had that on her person.
Right.
Yeah.
Kim Mulkey is a bad person. Okay. She is a bad person. Okay. And I don't care. And this is where I get on my soapbox here. She's a bad person because I don't believe that she cares about her players too much. Okay. Is she a homophobe? Yes. She is.
I think at the end of the day, bottom line is she just cares about winning.
Mm-hmm.
She just cares about those numbers,
winning and her legacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's it.
She's not the type of player who's going to sit there and be buddy with her players. She's an old school Bobby Knight type
hard-nosed
coach, right?
Yeah.
She is a homophobe. Okay. And homophobes hate being called homophobes. They go off and say, well, it's a religious thing. No, you're a homophobe.
Yeah.
And you're just using that as an excuse. That's what she is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she goes off and says that she's going to sue the Washington Post if they write a hit piece on her. Well, there's freedom of the press. Okay. And there's no lawsuit that she's going to have that's going to stick to the Washington Post. She can sue all day long. But where is the editorial responsibility of the Washington Post on this? why do this particular story? Because it's not like what they said was not known. Okay, this has been a thought process about her. This has been a criticism about Kim Mulkey forever.
Yeah.
So
it's just them spinning a headline for clickbait. Basically that's all it is.
So the LA Times also had an editorial yesterday that was released, and CNN is reporting right now. And I saw this also when I went on to the LA Times website. They had an article that was written about, it wasn't an article, it was a column that was written about the LSU Tigers. And it was the most racist thing I had seen in a long time. It was veiled racism. And he called them the dirty debutantes. He was basically asking the question, who cheers for LSU basketball because they're the bad guys? They're the evil empire. They're the Darth Vader to the UCLA, Skywalker, the alliance and all that stuff. They're just trying to draw a comparison. But he called them dirty debutantes. He called them the cookies to the UCLA's milk. Okay, well, what color is milk?
Yeah.
What color is a cookie? And it went on and on and on. Was talking about how bad LSU basketball is as far as for the sport, that they're dirty, that they're not, that they're bad sports, and that they're just bad people, and the bad coach. It went on and on and on, and it was just veiled racism analogy after veiled racism analogy.
You got to ask where the editor's at.
That's exactly it. In fact, LA Times has an article on there that basically says, look, there's like a couple of paragraphs up there saying that the previous version of this editorial did not meet our standards, and therefore we have edited it. And now it's like a plain Jane article.
Yeah.
It's a plain Jane editorial, right? They went through it all.
Rewrote the whole thing.
They basically rewrote it, right? Well, I went after that guy. Okay, so they basically referred to UCLA as, quote, America's sweethearts. They referred to them as the milk to LSU's cookies, and then referred to LSU as dirty debutantes and Louisiana hot sauce. Meantime, UCLA's head coach, who's female herself, okay, she retweeted that column and is now saying, I'm sorry, but I did not read what I retweeted. Bullshit. She specifically used that column and retweeted that column after getting pissed off because they lost to LSU. After getting pissed off because LSU roughed them up. LSU, man, if you were watching basketball now, college basketball tonight against Caitlin Clark in Iowa, LSU plays a variety of basketball that's reminiscent to late 80s Pistons, early 90s Bulls, early 90s Knicks.
Yeah.
They will beat you up. Okay? And a lot of these teams are not ready for that. South Carolina plays that way too. And tonight, 6:00 tip-off, Iowa against LSU, a rematch of the national championship game from last year, Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese. It is a big, big deal. It's a big deal. The rating is going to be huge. Charlie Hernandez reaches out to us in our YouTube stream, says she has no obstacles in the way when it comes to winning. Talking about LSU's head coach, Kim Mulkey. I can't wait for tonight's game.
It's going to be a big one.
Do you think, America's cheering for Caitlin Clark, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's a racial component to that. I think that they want to see her win something because she has never won anything before. Won Big Ten championships, but has never won the NCAAs to my knowledge.
Yeah. They want to see her move on, advance, But again, you're going to have to go up against LSU. That's been your obstacle. So
now
I think tonight is going to be a highly contested game. It's going to be a very physical game, and it's going to be entertaining, dude. This is what, if you're a steward of the game, if you're a fan of basketball, these are the games you get up for.
Right.
This is what you want to see.
This is it, man. Yeah. And earlier this week, by the way, Ice Cube
offered
Caitlin Clark $5 million
$5 million
to play in his Big 3 league, the 3-on-3 basketball league.
Yeah.
$5 million, man. That's more than she'll make in the
NIL.
In NIL and also in WNBA salary. So that's pretty cool. pretty cool. But again, big game tonight, Iowa LSU. That's going to be at 6:00. USC taking on UConn. That's a 1 versus 3 matchup taking place afterwards at 8:00. Now on the men's side, we're down to 4.
The final 4.
2 1 seeds advance. UConn, Purdue are in the final 4. Purdue's going to take on Saturday NC State, who's coming in as the 11th seed.
That's my underdog, dude.
Now, I mean, we're going back and forth on Twitter about whether or not NC State is actually a Cinderella team.
They're my underdog.
If you are a Cinderella team, to me, you're in a mid-major. Okay? I have a hard time saying that an ACC school is going to be someone that I consider to be a Cinderella. How is that possible? Because they have 3 and 4 star athletes, right? But if you take a look at it, leading up to the March Madness, here's what they did. Okay, check this out. This is January 20 and on. They lost January 20 on. They lost 3 in a row to Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Syracuse. Then they won 2 in a row. Then they lost 2 in a row. They lost Pittsburgh and Wake Forest, and they won a game against Clemson, lost against Syracuse, won against Boston College, but then lost 4 games in a row going to the ACC tournament. They lost to Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Pittsburgh. Okay, they were dead in the water. Think about that. At one point on January 20th, they were 13 and 4 with a 5-1 ACC record. 13 and 4. Heading into the tournament, they went from 13 and 4 to 17 and 14. They had lost 10 out of 14 games going into the ACC tournament. And what do? They beat Louisville. They beat Syracuse. They beat Duke. They beat Virginia in overtime. And they won the ACC tournament, beating North Carolina to go into the tournament. And now they're in the Final 4.
No,
they've won 9 in a row.
They just got hot at the right time, man.
Wow.
That's a hell of a streak. You know, they're a streaky team.
Yeah. So I guess that is a team that people are cheering for right now because it's and I understand people want to see that 11 seed, but to me, if you were 13 and 4 in the ACC and you were in first place in the ACC at some point in mid-January, you weren't an underdog team. You were just basically underperforming at that point. It might have been injuries or whatever the case may be. Now, I found it interesting that when North Carolina got knocked off, they got knocked off by a player who was a 0-star recruit.
Yeah.
0 stars. And so you're taking a look last night, again, NC State taking on Purdue. We saw Alabama advance. Alabama, their assistant head coach is now UTSA's head coach. But he can't take over the program just yet because he promised Bama that he would stay on board until the season ended. And that season continues. Alabama advancing to the Final 4 at a 25-11 record, taking on UConn, who looks unbeatable. Yeah. UConn is the only team right now that just looks absolutely unbeatable, and we're going dancing, baby. We're going dancing to the Final 4. It's exciting.
I predict that's what's going to really happen at this point is you're going to have Purdue and UConn maybe going at it. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if NC State was able to go ahead and pull up an upset if they caught Purdue sleeping. Mm-hmm. But Purdue is just a powerhouse. They're good.
Yeah, Purdue,
they're really good.
Purdue 72-66 over Tennessee. Zach Edey.
They don't got an answer for him.
40 points, 16 boards, and then there's that video of him hanging out with a co-ed that is making the rounds on social media.
Hey, man, Edey, though, that boy's he's big, man.
He's a projected mid to late first-round guy this year's draft.
They got no answer for him, though, in the paint, dude. Mm-hmm. He's going to do whatever he wants. You can't stop him.
Now, Duke had no answers for DJ Burns last night. DJ Burns just blew up. 29 points for NC State as they beat Duke 76-64. That defense of NC State was suffocating.
Yeah, it was,
and man. Duke had no chance. Duke wasn't even getting close. Duke didn't even make a run. And my favorite thing about it was DJ Burns was described on TikTok earlier today. This comedian that I follow who does college basketball analysis.
Yeah.
Was saying that they got beat by a soda machine. That he looked like a soda machine. That he was just built like a soda machine. It's just a rectangle thing, just standing up there.
Vending machine.
It's just a vending machine. But he went out there and had 29 points. On the other side of the bracket, though, UConn beating the living crap out of 3-seed Illinois 77 to 52. Klingon,
the disparity of talent is very evident, dude.
It is. And Donovan Klingon, by the way, is rising through the ranks of the mock drafts right now. He's 7'2", 280. I've seen some mock drafts say that he's a top 10 player, maybe as high as 7. And then again, Bama beat Clemson 89 to 82. We're on to the Final Four. Final Four is going to get going this weekend. I'm excited about it. Connecticut seems to be the team to beat right now. Tim Gonzalez reaches out and says, go ACC. Chris Gonzalez reaches out and says, is Purdue more of an underdog only because they lost to a 16 seed last year? That's true. They're making up for the fact that they wet the bed last year.
Yeah.
And we saw that a while back. Who was that team a couple of years ago that was national champions, but they lost in the first round the year before? They just kind of, it was like Virginia.
I think it was, West Virginia.
Yeah, I think it was just regular Virginia. The Cavaliers had done it. Chris reminded us that UConn had a 30-0 run. Dude, that team looks unbeatable.
You know what, man? One thing that we haven't talked about, but we should talk about is Duke and University of Houston. Yeah, that game was hard to watch, man, because everybody was like, oh, is going to wind up beating Duke. It's going to be a really close game, but they believe that they're going to have enough to beat Duke. But the problem is that injuries are part of the game.
Yep.
So you can't say, well, Houston lost its star guard, Jamil Sheed, due to an ankle injury. It happens, man. But you know what?
But that's why they lost, though.
That's why they lost, yes. But I thought Houston did a very good job of being competitive, and they almost could have had that game. But they just, without their star guard in the lineup in crunch time, they made a few mistakes and it cost them the game. That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, but I mean that injury was so big, though, man.
It was a big one, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
And it was a bad injury too. That guy's gonna be out for quite some time.
They had that, brother. You know how you go ahead and you get a knee surgery or something. You have that little 4-wheeled cart that you put your leg on, right?
Yeah, you put your knee on it and you scooter out.
He was on that just to go get X-rays.
Yeah,
he wasn't even in a wheelchair. They're just trying to get him there as fast as they could. He was wheeled out, right? Then they put him on that thing. Then they tape him up, and he's hobbling back. It's like there's no way he's gonna go. Not a chance in hell. And sure enough, they didn't put him in. He was just sitting there sulking, watching his team lose, and there was absolutely nothing he could do. I felt bad for the kid. I mean, he's just there. He's crying after the game. A lot of times this is it for you.
Right.
You don't get a second chance. There is no, we'll get him next year.
He's done.
He's done, dude.
He's done. We mentioned how UConn was looking unbeatable, but also looking unbeatable this weekend. Spurs.
For a hot minute there, and then what happens is that your boy Jeremy Sohan gets hurt.
Yeah.
Against the Spurs victory against the Knicks.
Yeah.
And that's all she wrote. I mean, he went ahead and missed the next game.
So
he was out. He didn't finish that game.
Over the weekend, we had a 40 and 20 from Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Right? He also had 7 assists. Dude, if he had a 40-20 triple-double, that game that went into overtime, Spurs won that game. That was their third in a row. Lost to the Warriors last night. Before that game against the Knicks, I was talking to Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs and Ken's 5. Follow him for your Spurs coverage at Jeff G Spurs Zone on Twitter and Threads. Also, Locked On Spurs podcast is available on
we might as well play the segment.
Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Locked On Spurs is your daily Spurs podcast, hosted by Jeff Garcia, the lead Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Jeff has a healthy plethora of guests all the time on the Locked On Spurs podcast. You can also follow Jeff on Threads at Jeff G Ken's 5 SA. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. So make sure you go ahead and give Jeff a follow not only on Threads and Twitter, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/@LockedOnSpurs. This is where you're going to be able to find the replay of the Locked On Spurs podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share.
And Jeff has an article on Kens5.com right now where he interviews C.D. Osman, who went off yesterday, by the way, had a pretty good game as the Spurs lost 117 to 113. C.D. says, quote, I think if the season would start today, we'd be in a different spot. Again, the Spurs playing a lot better. Won 3 in a row. Had won back-to-back games a couple weeks before that. The Spurs are basically playing close to 500 ball the past few weeks or so. And have been playing better, right? But the Spurs right now are still on track to have the worst record in franchise history. Hopefully they at least tie it, right? So that they're not the worst of all time, but we've got a handful of games to go.
18 wins thus far.
No Jeremy Sohan, no Keldon Johnson yesterday. I believe Devin Vassell was also out yesterday.
Everybody was out.
But the Spurs played well. They had a double-digit lead in the second quarter. Then they went out and they lost the lead in the third quarter. Big run by the Warriors, and the Spurs clawed all the way back. Some questionable calls down the stretch.
Two questionable calls.
One was an over the back, and one was a non-call.
Yeah, that over the back was such bullshit against Wemby.
Yeah,
against Draymond.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, that one was a bad call. I'll agree with you on that. But the Spurs, I mean, they played well. But we saw, I mentioned Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs and Ken's 5 because before the game against the Knicks, I said, dude, Brunson's going to go off tonight.
Yeah.
And he goes, I know too. And I said, well, what do you think the over-under is? Now, Brunson is somebody that averages about 27, 28 points per game. He's a really good player. Can't believe the Mavericks got rid of him to get Kyrie. But I asked the question, what's the over-under? Do you know what we set the over-under at? 45.
Jeez. Dude.
I said he's going to go off for 45 points. And the dude went off for 61. He was at 45 at the end of 3 quarters. Wemby goes off for 40 and 20 with 7 assists. Right? The Spurs come back, dramatic victory, win in overtime.
Yeah.
It was a great game against a very, very good quality squad. And they almost beat a team yesterday without 3 of their 6 best players. And the Spurs are playing a lot better. They're passing the ball a lot better. After the game against the Knicks, though, Wemby chunks the ball into the stands, right? And Spurs fans were coming at me on Twitter yesterday because I said, yeah, he got fined 25 grand. Them's the rules. He should be fined. And a lot of Spurs fans are like, well, we wish you would just be a fan, Jimenez. What? So I could just slurp this team and just basically say that they can't do any wrong? That's the thing. There are rules against this.
Well, look, case in point, Jeff McDonald, the San Antonio Express. He put 13 hours ago on the X. He puts Wemby's reaction to the $25K fine for tossing the ball into the stands in celebration of the Spurs win over the Knicks on Friday. This is what Wemby said. When I threw the ball, I thought, yeah, I remember players being fined for this, but they always threw it in a bad way. I threw it to please somebody. But the point is that he threw the ball in celebration. He was having a good time. I honestly didn't see anything wrong with it. I just think it was just part of the rules, I guess, that the NBA enforces.
It's
and
part
you
of
threw
the
the ball. You threw the ball. You get the fine. I didn't think he did it to mean anything nefarious.
I don't think he did it in any negative way either. But
all.
Those are the rules. Those are the
man.
rules. You can't kick the ball in the stands. You can't throw the ball into the stands. And people were like, "Well, the game was over." Okay.
It was.
Well, no. The rules are here. Are the rules for any basketball game. If the referee is on the court, the game is still on. Okay, that is the rules in middle school, high school, college, and NBA. Referee on the court, the game is still on. There could be 0 minutes on the clock, right? Because the rationale that I used on there was saying, well, if the game is over, does that mean Draymond Green can go over and punch somebody in the face? Does that mean that they can fight each other because the game's over?
But that's a different analogy. This is throwing a ball.
It's not the different analogy.
It's a ball.
There are the rules of when the game is on.
I get that.
Exists before the game and after the game if the official is on the court. Now, if this was 30 minutes after the game and Wemby's on the court, he was doing let's say that Wemby had done a post-game interview, right?
And look at Chris Gonzalez. Somebody did go home with the game ball, and they showed the guy that had the ball in his hand celebrating happy as could be.
Yeah, meantime, Brunson's pissed off because he wanted that ball.
But you know what? I'm glad Wemby did that because he's like, you know what? Fuck you. We still won this game. Boom. He said, Toma.
But the thing is that like if Wemby had done a post-game interview and the officials had left the area and gone to the locker room, which is like 3 minutes after the game's over, and then Wemby had gone the ball and chunked it in the stands, he wouldn't have been fined. but he did it immediately after the game where all 30 players are still there. All 10 players are still on the court.
I think that's a bullshit rule, dude. That's
it is
stupid.
not.
It's
it is not. Why? Because if he chunks that ball into the air, right? And the way he threw it, he didn't like chest pass it. He flung it.
He was excited. They won a game.
Yeah. And let's say a 3-year-old kid is walking by and gets hit in the face and gets sent to the hospital.
You see, you're just putting that in there, though. What's the likelihood of that happening? It's not going to happen.
The likelihood is
it could happen. I'm not saying that it couldn't
happen.
It could happen.
It could,
but the likelihood of that happening is really not going to happen.
It is
you still have people
there. Liability issue.
I get that. I get the rules. I just think it's a stupid rule. He's just celebrating.
Is it stupid because it's Wemby?
No, I just think it's a dumb rule in general.
What if it was Jalen Brunson who threw the ball into the crowd?
He deserves the fine too.
I'm excited. I scored 61 points.
I'm just saying. I think it's just a dumb rule.
Jalen Brunson had got excited. 61 points, got excited, and threw the ball into the crowd and hit a kid.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm saying it's a dumb rule. It doesn't matter who wins or when you throw the ball in celebration. Are you going to do that in the NBA Finals? You win Game 7 or Game 6,
and they get fined.
You win. There's still refs on the court,
and they get fined.
The season's over. You're the NBA champs. You throw the ball in the air in celebration.
Kyrie's been fined for that. Kyrie got fined by that. Jason Tatum's been fined by that. LeBron James has been fined for that. Draymond Green's been fined for that. This is the rule.
It's a dumb rule.
This is the rule.
How much do you get fined for a technical foul?
You don't.
You get fined for technical fouls.
You get fined if you exceed, I think, more than 17 in a year.
No, every time, I know there's a rule. Every time you get a technical foul, you pay a fine of some kind. And if you get kicked out of a game, you have to pay a fine, especially if it's due to a technical foul. You get 2 technical fouls, all right, you're kicked out, you're ejected out of the game. There's a fine for that.
So D'Lo is reminding us of the fact that Tracy McGrady kicked the ball into stands. I remember that.
San Antonio Spurs great Tracy McGrady.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, what an ass you are, dude. To say that.
Houston Rockets fan. That's like Charlotte Hornets great Tony Parker.
That guy's reaction. He looked, what the fuck is this guy?
But the thing is that the rules don't skirt around Wemby because we like him or because he wears silver and black or the Bill Miller's colors that they were wearing that game. You do not skirt around. Those are the rules. Them's the rules. And then he could go down and say, well, I'm not going to pay it. You're going to pay it. It's coming out of your check, dude. It's
go
coming
start
out
Wemby
of your check.
A GoFundMe. The fans will pay the fine. Fuck that.
The Spurs right now are in jeopardy of falling out of the bottom 3 right now when it comes to the NBA upcoming draft lottery, right? So right now, by the way, speaking of draft lottery, I've been using that phrase my entire life.
The NBA draft lottery?
The draft lottery, right? I had no idea that this had something to do with the actual lottery from Vietnam back in the 60s.
Yeah.
I was on TikTok the other day, and it posed the question, how quickly would you have been drafted into the military?
Yeah.
Right? And it was telling the story about how back in the 60s, as the United States initiated the draft, that they did so by birthday.
Yeah.
So if you were born on a certain day, you had to go report, right? And it got to the point where there's 365 days in the year that I believe 190 birthdays were called. The first day to be called was September 14th, which is my dad's birthday. My dad was not allowed to go because my dad had too many kids. My dad was like 24 years old. They had 4 kids, and they were like, okay, you have 4 kids. You can stay home. My dad ended up doing civil service and ended up, working at Kelly Air Force Base.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, when I saw the televised draft lottery,
yeah,
it was creepy because they were like September 14th, January 3rd, December 16th. And this is the fate of people as to whether they were going to go into the Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Air Force, or whatever. And that was crazy. So now when I hear the phrase draft lottery, and it freaks me out. And by the way, they showed all the birthdays that were called, and it was like the first 30 got a report. So I hear the word draft lottery, and it means something different to me right now, man. But looking at the NBA draft lottery right now, Again, the bottom 3 teams get the best odds of getting the number 1 overall pick,
Look
which
at
is
Vane Stain.
14%.
He says, laugh out loud. That's like the
It's
Hunger
like the Hunger Games.
Games.
Exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. It was
Yeah.
the creepiest thing. Maybe I'll find it and put it on my Twitter
But
page.
the sad thing is that you're hearing all these, birthdays being called out, but there's consequences for it too, because some of these men that went over there didn't come back. They gave the ultimate price in service for the country, So it's sad, in a way, but it's origins of, like you were saying, NBA draft lottery,
Yeah, it's basically what I'm saying is that it's very
like reminiscent.
It's reminiscent, but it's also bad taste. By the way, there's a USAtoday.com has a thing that asks the question, would you have been drafted? According to USA Today, March 13, which is my birthday, was number 259 called. I never would have gone to Vietnam.
March the 28th is mine.
Let's see yours. March 28. Would you have been drafted? Let's see. March 28. You wouldn't have been drafted. 223. So you and I would have been at home going to college.
Yeah.
Found that to be interesting. But there was like a list of all the names that were out there. And September 14th was the first one to be called. And Vane Stain is correct. It was like the Hunger Games. When I saw that video, can you imagine being 18 to 25 years old, sitting around a TV and just your fate being decided by ping pong balls? Yeah. We get excited about that, about Victor Wembanyama, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson. But this was like real life. Oh, you were born on September 14th. Here's a gun. Here's a rifle. Go over to South Korea, and we're gonna invade North.
Yeah.
Right. Crazy. Not Korea. Vietnam.
Yeah.
But man, interesting. That's but NBA draft lottery. The Spurs right now sitting at 18 and 57. Again, the bottom 3 teams get the top odds. Right. 14% of winning the overall pick. Right now, the Spurs are only half game above, if you will, in the rankings over Charlotte, who has lost 8 of its last 10 games. Behind them, Portland is just a game and a half away from the Spurs. Portland's lost 9 out of 10. Toronto, who has a top 6 protected pick that we're hoping to get potentially this year, they have lost 13 in a row. There is some really high-end tanking going on. The Utah Jazz have lost 9 in a row.
But look at Toronto's record, though. What's their overall record?
23 and 51. So the odds of Toronto falling into that 5 spot are very, very, very low. But they're hell-bent on keeping their pick. And right now, it's basically a coin flip.
Yeah.
It's basically a coin flip as to whether the Spurs would get it. So I think a lot of Spurs fans are under the impression they don't understand how the lottery works, because I think that they believe that the Spurs, if they have like the 3rd worst pick, worst case scenario, we're picking 5. Incorrect. Right now, the Spurs, as the 3rd worst team right now, has a 7% chance of picking number 7. It's 1 in 14. A 26% chance, basically 1 in 4, of picking 6.
Yeah.
A 15% chance of picking 5. And then you got 12, 13, 13, 14 to be in 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah. Basically, the Spurs at this point, they have almost the same record as the Hornets.
Yeah.
And you're looking in the East, and those are your 3 worst teams: Hornets, Wizards, and the Pistons. And the Eastern or the Western Conference, the teams with the worst record right now are going to be the San Antonio Spurs, have the worst record in the Western Conference, followed by the Trailblazers and then the Memphis Grizzlies.
I like this question asked by Mario Cavazos, and this is why I love doing this show. He asked the question, who are the most famous draft dodgers of all time? He goes, is Muhammad Ali the most famous draft dodger? Well,
Donald Trump?
There's a list.
I thought Donald Trump was one.
Donald Trump was a draft dodger. Bill Clinton was a draft dodger.
There you go.
George W. Bush, 3 future presidents were draft dodgers. Mitt Romney ran for president, was a draft dodger. And then when you go to some celebrities, this is according to Prezi.com, Sylvester Stallone, Steven Tyler, and Bruce Springsteen were all draft dodgers. By the way, Bruce Springsteen sang Born in the USA in the mid-'80s, which is an anti-Vietnam song. And a lot of people, mostly conservatives, think that it's a patriotic song. It's a patriotic song in a different way.
Yeah.
It's a patriotic song in a sense of rebellion, not because read the lyrics. It's about a Vietnam vet coming back and being treated like crap when he came back home and not having opportunity when he came back home.
Yeah.
People don't read lyrics for shit, man. It's kind of funny. But no, thank you for picking that up. Spurs right now, handful of games left in the NBA season. The worst record the Spurs have ever had in NBA history, in their 51-year history, is I believe 20-62. So they got to win 2 more games to make that happen. Again, it's a possibility of no Jeremy Sohan the rest of the season.
I think they're going to sit him out, dude.
They should. It's not needed. The Spurs have 7 games left. They've got only 4 games here at home. So here's what's coming up for the Spurs right now. Spurs have a road game against the Nuggets tomorrow night, 8:00. Pelicans on the road against the New Orleans Pelicans on the 5th. They come back home against the Sixers later on this weekend. Then they're on the road for the Grizzlies and Thunder. Then they finish the season off with the Nuggets and home against the Pistons. Speaking of Nuggets, let's talk about our baddie brackets.
Let's talk about it.
The Nuggets. So for those who don't know, who follow our show, nugget is the term that we use affectionately to describe the hotties. That's the way that we describe them. And because of a mathematical error, I was unable to do the brackets correctly. And that's my fault, right? I thought I was being cute about it to get to the Sweet 16. But apparently I'm a big old idiot, and we accidentally had 28 people advance to the Sweet 16.
Awful lot.
Yeah, that's a lot more than 16, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I got rid of 2 of the wrestlers. Sorry, I'm not going to have too many wrestlers out there. We'll have 2 out there. Trish Stratus, who had huge numbers.
Yeah.
She's going to be out there. But is it Banks? What's her first name?
Oh my God. The name eludes me now. Sasha Banks.
Yes. And there's another one out there.
Mercedes.
There's another one.
name.
There's another one out there that I kicked out. I kicked off Sofia Vergara because they weren't going to win. So what we did was we got the top 8 performers, and we're going to seed these players, right? We're going to seed these baddies because we're trying to, it's a March Madness gimmick, but we're trying to figure out who we think is the hottest celebrity of 2024. Not what they look like a long time ago, but what they look like now. So certain players, certain hotties, baddies, if you will, got to buy into the Sweet 16 because they were one of the top 8 vote getters. So some of those that got into the Sweet 16 include AT&T Lily.
Nice.
She advanced with a high number there. Sydney Sweeney did not have to face another battle, another bracket. She kept on going.
The ample assets are very prevalent.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
There you go.
Advanced to the Sweet 16. Did not need to play another play-in tournament game.
Yeah.
Other names out there. Salma Hayek got automatic.
This bracket's ridiculous, bro. I mean, everybody that's advancing, that's just they have a certain assets.
Yeah. Dua Lipa advanced.
Okay, she's the only exception there.
I believe Shakira advanced to the Sweet 16. Should. No big deal.
I think she might make it to the Final Four.
So we have a poll on Twitter, MJ Acquired Taste, and we're saying that the top 2 are going to advance. But what happens if one runs away? Does the second place person even deserve to be in there? So right now we have one bracket right now of Scarlett Johansson, Aubrey Plaza, Livy Dunn, and Kendall Jenner. And as of now, it's only this poll's only 2 hours old. Scarlett Johansson's running away with it. Dude.
Oh, I saw that, dude. I voted in real time, by the way, too, before the show started.
Yeah.
And we're like, I said, Scarlett Johansson. You clicked on it, and I was like, whoa. She had like 77%, I believe, of the vote.
We're down to 65%, right? Because Aubrey Plaza and Kendall Jenner right now are tied for second place. The top 2 will advance. In the next bracket, essentially, these are 3, 4, 5, and 6 seeds, right? So really, the 1 and 2 seeds advanced already. These are the 3, 4, 5s, and 6s to get into the Sweet 16, right? I seeded them.
Okay.
So Scarlett Johansson was the 3 seed. So she's expected to move on. Aubrey Plaza was the 4 seed. She's tied for that spot. Kendall Jenner was a 6 seed, is tied with Aubrey Plaza. That's going to be close right there. Now, when it comes to the next bracket, the 3 seed's J-Lo, and J-Lo's getting her ass handed to her right now because the 5 seed coming out of nowhere, maybe a Cinderella, Hillary Duff.
I mean, come on. Bro.
Right now with 44% of the vote.
Doesn't surprise me. She built like a brick house, bro.
Aubrey Plaza right now, the 4 seed, still trying to advance, is in second place. Tiffany Stratton not doing so well. Now, 2 other brackets to go here. the 3 seed that's supposed to advance is winning right now. Jessica Alba, 46% of the vote. Dude, as the 5 seed, Jennifer Aniston, she survive in advance. That's all she does.
Survives.
She doesn't win her brackets. She continuously gets second place just to advance.
Let's see. You're showing it in real time there.
And then in the last bracket, the 3 seed, Jenna Ortega, getting whooped right now. Doesn't look like Wednesday's going to advance, man, because Ana de Armas and Selena Gomez came to play.
I voted for Jenna Ortega, man, but I know Ana de Armas. It's hard to not want to vote for her.
You know, the Latinas are doing well today. Scarlett Johansson, though, has a following.
Bro, come on, man.
She has a
just look at her, dude. Come on. You know, I mean, like I said, I've taken my friends to go watch that movie Black Widow, embarrassed the shit out of me in front of this private screening that we had with all my other friends.
Yeah.
One of my buddies rented theater so we could watch this. And as soon as they show the butt shot of her, my buddies all, there it is. I'm like, God. And it's dead silent.
Yeah.
You just hear that. I'm like, oh my God. And then everybody's laughing.
On TMZ.com, one of our baddies that's advancing to the Sweet 16 is being featured right now. This story just posted literally within the hour. It's about Shakira. And she is criticizing the movie Barbie, saying that she just saw it with her kids and that she found it and her sons found it, quote unquote, emasculating towards men. Interesting take, interesting spin. It goes on to say that Shakira is sounding off the alarm about the Barbie movie, saying that its ultra-feminism and female empowerment message is misguided and it comes at the expense of men. Interesting take.
Interesting.
Fascinating take. Because I can see the empowerment movement of it all. But as someone who has seen this movie recently for the first time, I respect the take that Shakira has there.
Yeah.
But I think that the take that Ken had in this movie was a sense of entitlement. That he should be able to make the rules because he's the guy. That's the whole point of the movie. I respect the take. And you know how I'm a girl dad?
Yeah.
She's a boy mom. So she looks at it from a completely different angle. I'm not saying that she's wrong. I'm just saying that I didn't get that vibe when I watched that movie. Other things about this today on TMZ.com. I got to find this because I had it earlier. On TMZ Sports, there was a brawl that broke out at the Padres-Giants game at Petco Park. Let's take a look at this real fast.
Okay, let me go ahead and change. There you go.
It happened in the bathroom over here.
Jeez, man. Hey, why do people do this kind of stuff, man?
I don't know, man. Someone got rocked.
Like, this kind of shit is just, to me, it's just ridiculous, bro. Like,
my question is this. Why would you want to get arrested for this script? Why would you want to get imagine going to a Spurs game or go into a missions game.
Oh, I've seen people go down before in a Spurs game.
Imagine doing that and just getting arrested. Imagine having a wife and you're like, or a girlfriend, and you're like, hey man, I'm gonna go to a Spurs game. I'll be back in a few hours, and then you not coming home, and then you get a click call from like, hey, this is a collect call from the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, a collect call from the Bexar County Jail. How do you do that? How do you get so drunk that you're fighting? I've been drunk off my ass at UTSA football games. I'm not fighting anybody.
Nah, man. I ain't fighting nobody like that. That's just, to me, it's ridiculous, bro. There's no place for that. Like, why would you let it escalate that far? If you're drunk and there's always somebody who's drunk, but not as drunk as the rest of your boys.
Yeah.
I take care of my crew. I try to make sure everybody's going to be okay. There's not going to be any fights breaking out. Everybody's getting home, getting in your Uber and whatnot. You know, it's like, I'm that friend that likes to take care of everybody. I wouldn't let that happen because I don't want to see my boy get carted away. Then I'll be like, oh, hell, now we all got to pitch in to get him out, you know?
Yeah.
Because I would feel responsible, you know, because that happened under my watch.
Tell me if this is some drunkenness. If you can go back to my screen over here. Another good story about Russell Westbrook arguing with a fan. saying that they got into a heated exchange at a game saying, "Don't disrespect my name." Says, according to TMZ Sports, that Russell Westbrook unloaded on a heckling fan during Sunday's game against the Charlotte Hornets, with the LA Clippers star cursing the guy out, and it was all captured on video. Let's see if we can find it here. Let me see if I can play the sound on it.
No, I don't see it yet. Don't hear it yet.
Okay, so how are you when it comes to heckling?
I mean, if you're going to heckle a player, there comes a time where you get tired of hearing the bullshit, And that's where I'm at right now with the X. If you want to come at me and you want to say stupid shit on X, cool.
Yeah.
But if I see you in person, keep that same energy.
Right.
Okay,
so apparently the answer was, or the comment made by Russell Westbrook is, "I have kids, don't respect my name." The hell does that have to do with anything? If I say, "Westbrook, you suck,"
yeah,
that has nothing to do with your kids. And as James Molina reaches out and says, he's yelling at a guy who's wearing a balloon hat. I haven't even noticed that.
I mean, it's the hecklers going to do dumb shit, and they're going to do stupid stuff, but it's up to you as a player. You don't have to let it affect you. I mean, if they're saying stupid stuff, let them say stupid shit. Where you can draw the line is if they're getting to where crossing the line to where they're throwing out racial slurs.
That's true.
That's when you're like, you know what? You got something to say now? All right, let's go.
Yeah. There's only one time I've had a professional athlete, get mad at me for what I was saying in the stands. And I told the story yesterday to my brother-in-law, Mike, because he took me to the game. We had some corporate seats, and we were down in the second row. So you and I sat in the fifth row.
Yeah.
I sat second row one time, right? And it was a TV timeout, and the Spurs were playing the Mavericks.
Yeah.
And Monte Ellis was one of the stars for Dallas at the time. And Monte Ellis was having a good game. He had like 30 points or so, start of the fourth quarter. But one thing about Monte Ellis, if you don't remember him, he could shoot, man. Sometimes when he was on fire, he was on fire. But defensively, he was a complete liability. And during the TV timeout, I just looked at Monte Ellis, and I just looked at him and I said, Monte, 30 points, my man, 30 points, my man. It's like, you're going off. And he looked over and smiled, right? And they're about to inbound the ball. And I was like, it's like, too bad you give up 50 on D. Parker's torching you tonight. And he looked at me all mad, and he inbounded the ball. He didn't say anything, but I felt that was fair enough.
Yeah.
That was heckling, but I didn't wasn't cursing at him
about it.
No, not at all.
No.
But put some respect on my name. That's so stupid.
Well, I think he's just getting tired of people coming at him all the time. He has to deal with it so much that he's just, any little thing that somebody says that he finds disrespectful.
Yeah.
He's like, what did you say? And the same thing happens with Kevin Durant. Nobody can say anything to him now because now he's all of a sudden just tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to ask yourself, I can see they're like, well, why are they getting so mad? Dude, if you have to put up with this day in, day out for an X amount of years, at some point you're going to snap. You get tired of it, dude.
Midtown reaches out and says, Monte. That's the way I said it, baby.
Monte.
That's the way I said it. Midtown also says that Joe doesn't sue people. Oh, that's sad. That's sad. I know where you're going with that, Midtown. Thank you so much for that. Now, speaking of Monte Ellis, Monte Ellis, famously point guard, shooting guard for the Dallas Mavericks. Their current point guard / shooting guard is Kyrie Irving, right? And someone posted a meme earlier today or over the weekend, and I went back and forth with somebody. I don't know who it was, but it's somebody that I go back and forth with on sports, on Twitter all the time with, basically saying that, trying to compare Allen Iverson to Kyrie Irving and saying that Allen Iverson was by far the better player to Kyrie Irving. And I reached out and said, in what respect? And there's this thing that goes on in sports where we romanticize certain players from our youth.
God, man.
And we think that they're better than what they really were. Kyrie Irving is significantly better than Allen Iverson. Ever was and ever will be. Kyrie Irving knows how to do this thing called shoot the ball. Okay? Kyrie Irving, it's funny because I've seen both play in person, right? Now, Allen Iverson was kind of like Barry Sanders back in the day because Barry Sanders had no one to play with, right? He was just one elite offensive player on a shitty team, and that's basically what Allen Iverson was. And famously, he took the Sixers to the finals, stepped over
the Lakers,
stepped over the Tyrone Lue, and then the Lakers destroyed them.
Yeah, they beat the Lakers in the first game?
The first game only. Yeah. First game only. We're like, oh, we're gonna have a series, right? But Kyrie is probably because Kyrie's a dick, is not considered to be one of the greatest players of all time. I'm not saying that Kyrie's top 10. I'm not even saying that he's top 20. I'm not even saying he's top 30. But Kyrie Irving is a better player than Allen Iverson ever was. Allen Iverson had handles, he had style, he had swagger, media loved him, and the whole thing about practice, I mean, he's iconic, yes. But on the court, Kyrie Irving destroys anything that Allen Iverson ever did, except for Kyrie Irving has the same handles. Kyrie Irving can play defense better. Kyrie Irving was a better shooter. And if you go back and look at the stats of Allen Iverson, he couldn't make a basket to save his life. Why do we romanticize players from the 90s and early 2000s?
It's a different time.
To the point where we think that they're so much better. That was the argument I had about Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe Bryant, that guy was an elite shooter. No, he wasn't. He sucked at shooting the ball. Like the last 5-6 seasons of Kobe Bryant's career were trash, but he made the All-Star team. Kyrie Irving, I mean, the heroics that he had in the NBA Finals. Kyrie Irving has a ring, albeit it was with LeBron. But Kyrie Irving is somebody that when I watch on the court, I think to myself, wow, that guy's good. And I saw Allen Iverson play, and don't get me wrong, he was a very, very good player. But Kyrie Irving, 8-time All-Star Game MVP, 2-time NBA All-Third team. He made the All-Second team.
Yeah.
He's part of the 50-40-90 club. He was Rookie of the Year. He was a 3-point shooting contest champion. The guy's a stud. He's a winner. He's a pain in the ass, though.
Look at that. Jackass. You got some pushback. AI was MVP and took teams to the final by himself. Kyrie ain't do that.
Kyrie Irving's a better player, man. Kyrie's a better player. I'm not going to sit here and say that every player from the 90s. People think that there's like 40 players from the 90s that are in the top 20 of all time. No. Now, I think there's certain players from the 90s and the 80s that are underrated. Like, I'll give you an example. How is Tom Chambers not in the Hall of Fame? Tom Chambers, I think, is the only player in NBA history that qualifies, that has over 20,000 points, not in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not saying that AI sucks. Okay, AI was a good player.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to romanticize him to thinking that he's like a top 5 point guard of all time. Dude, Stockton was a better point guard than AI.
Stockton was also one of the dirtiest players that I know. That motherfucker would always be pulling people's shorts when they're trying to get rebounds, stepping on people's feet, doing the little chicken wing. At different times, bro. I
love the stories that you see right now.
Yeah.
On podcasts right now. Some of the best podcasts, Kevin Garnett, when he does his, every once in a while when Draymond Green has his head on straight, is a pretty good podcast. The Kelsey brothers. But a lot of them are bringing up Jalen Rose and all of those guys. Steven Jackson are bringing up the greatness of certain players. They brought up recently John Stockton. They were like, dude, that guy was so good. Certain players that I think need to be elevated and some need to be lowered. I think AI needs to be lowered. AI was a good player, but the romanticism about him is about style. It's about the fact that we liked his gear.
He changed the game with his style.
We liked what he wore. He represented hip hop. He didn't want to wear a suit going in, and then they had to implement rules because they didn't want you being all hood, if you will, going into the stadium.
On,
they didn't want him all ethnic. but certain players need to be elevated. Like John Stockton, I believe, whenever they talk about the best point guards of all time, how do you not have John Stockton up there? He needs to be elevated. Gary Payton needs to be elevated from the status that they have right now. I think certain players like AI and Kobe need to come down, pump the fucking brakes. The stats weren't there.
Yeah.
Okay, it was all popularity. It wasn't about substance of what they did. It's like that in baseball. Certain players, dude, Derek Jeter would not be Derek Jeter if he didn't play for the Yankees, man. If Derek Jeter played for the Twins, he'd be Paul Molitor. If Paul Molitor played for the Yankees, Paul Molitor with his stats would be considered to be a top 5 player of all time. That has a lot to do with it.
Hey, you know
Kind
what?
of a fist saying revisionist MJ.
One of the things we're going to do, because we're going to have to start bringing this thing to a close here, but we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the weekend box office. So
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and do the entertainment bump.
Don't tell me there's another one. Godzilla,
Hey,
Kong, New Empire.
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you.
$80 million box office opening, 194 globally over the weekend. This is according to the Hollywood Reporter. I mean, that's a big number, baby. That's a big number. That's ahead of the expectations of 45 million. When you throw down 80, when you're expected to go 45 to 55, that is a big deal, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movies that I've seen so far on this list. So the top 5, Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire, $80 million in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire,
which is doing a lot better than people thought.
Yeah, I mean,
people thought they would be tired of it by now.
They still like it. It's 15.7 million is the take. Total already 73.4 mil. Dune 2, number 3 over the weekend. They took in 11.1 mil. Their total global revenue right now is at 252.3 mil. Not bad. They're in week 5. Number 4, you got Kung Fu Panda. They went ahead and made 10.2 million. Total take in week 4 so far is 151.6 mil. Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. Mm-hmm. It's a horror flick. They pulled in 3.26 mil. Already in week 2, they've only made 11.1 million. I don't know if you could really classify this as a success, but that's what the top 5 are for this weekend. And it was a holy weekend, with Good Friday and all, a lot of people off going to see movies and all that. Godzilla was, of course, the runaway favorite. I did see it, and it was so funny. We went to go see it at the Marbach Nice Theater because everybody else was sold out. So I went to go see it over here at the West Lakes Santikos location. I had to go and see it in 3D because all the other showings were sold out. So we went to see it. And my wife, immediately after, she's like, what in the Jurassic Park Transformers did I just watch? I'm like, this isn't her thing.
Dude, I saw the last one, man. I saw the last Kong movie. I fell asleep halfway through.
Dude, this one is not like that one. This one, it's a popcorn flick. It's a lot of action. It's a lot of Kong. It's a lot of Godzilla and the monsters on the screen doing their thing. And I think this is what makes it entertaining. If you're a fan of monster flicks, you're going to like this one. Is it groundbreaking, earth-shattering? None of the above. It's a good flick where you're not going to ask questions because a lot of shit doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Just shut the fuck up. Get your damn popcorn and enjoy the ride.
There was no plot in the last one.
I mean, you're not there for the plot. You're there for the fights, That's what you're watching this for. And it was entertainment.
Vane Stain, which is out to us, is Immaculate, the new Jennifer's Body. That's an interesting point.
Interesting, but it's not just doing good.
Sydney Sweeney right now, the Immaculate has made 13 million rather on a $9 million budget. So it's a slight success.
It's not just pulling in that money, though.
Yeah, and we need to have a conversation about Sydney Sweeney in the sense that what is the sweet spot for what she does for a living? Because she was in that other movie. What was that movie? Madam Web.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a complete box office flop. Madam Web, it made its money back, right? It made $99 million on a $90 million budget. But that's not what they expect from that type of movie, right?
And with the star power that it had.
And Sydney Sweeney in this movie, Immaculate, barely bringing in what they made it, what they spent on the movie. Sydney Sweeney might actually be really a TV star.
Who knows?
Because she was in Euphoria, she was in White Lotus, and that's where she became famous. She's that. She's not a movie star.
I don't know. I think it's might be more the parts that she's picking to play. This is what's being offered to her, and she likes the story, but maybe it's the execution down the stretch that is just really not doing much for her. I think she needs to get a role that really is going to fit her persona, and I think that'll take her to the next level. Who knows? She might still be offered some movie roles, and she could still come out and surprise everybody with an extremely large hit. But, talking about the movies here, I saw Godzilla, thought it was good, good popcorn flick. I saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire the week before Godzilla. thought it was good. The wife actually enjoyed it. We saw it at the Flicks Brew House.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Ghostbusters, going back to the originals, especially Ghostbusters 1, the first movie, it's not bad. It's more along the lines of trying to go ahead and get back to that formula that worked so well for the original Ghostbusters film, even part 2 per se. Because I know a lot of people had a lot of things to say about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Oh, it's a rehash. There's old characters. This one is new characters, a new introduction of new characters, new bads, big bad in here and everything. It stayed within that formula, and it was a good film. I know there's a lot of people hating, and you go on social media right now and they're fighting. Oh, you have your Gen 1 stands,
the old schools,
the old school. Oh, it's not, and it's like this is a different time.
There's nothing that they could have done that would have made him happy.
Exactly. They even had little Easter eggs that they put in the film that are harkened back to the original.
You're right.
And it's like there's a lot of little things, a lot of fan service they did here, and it was an enjoyable movie. It keeps with the persona of the original, moving things forward.
They essentially had a ghost of Egon last time because the real actor and movie director and he died.
Yeah. It was good. So if you're going to watch something and you want something that's not Kong and Godzilla, that Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is right up your alley. Thought it was good. I have not seen Dune Part 2. I do want to see that. Maybe I'll go see that this weekend with the wife or, one of my buddies. I hear it's good. I just want to check it out for myself. But, other than that, that was your weekend top 5. You have Godzilla, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, Dune Part 2, Kung Fu Panda 4. I ain't watching that because I ain't watch cartoons no more. And Immaculate. That rounds up your top 5.
Dude, don't forget, 6 o'clock tonight, Iowa taking on LSU, the women's Elite 8. That's going to be a big, big matchup. Going to get big ratings. And again, you can go on to Twitter and vote at MJ Acquire Taste on our baddie brackets. We're going to get down to the Sweet 16. Tomorrow we'll have the Sweet 16, but we already know certain ladies who are hitting big numbers right now. Ana de Armas, Selena Gomez are on track to advance. Jessica Alba, Jennifer Aniston, Hillary Duff is looking pretty strong right now. Aubrey Plaza and J-Lo fighting for that last spot in the Sweet 16. Scarlett Johansson, San Antonians, man. The Poodles love Scarlett Johansson.
They do.
And it looks like a three-way race to see who's going to come in, who's going to advance between Aubrey Plaza, Livy Dunn, and Kendall Jenner. Again, on MJ Acquire Taste. On Twitter, you can vote on that.
Oh, and the latest poll standings that we started for our viewers, 52% say, when we told them to vote, did Mike actually have dinner with Jerry Jones? 52% say yes, 48% say no.
And the answer is sort of.
Yes, sort of.
Sort of yes.
Yeah.
He invited me to he had seen a story that I did, apparently. I was former media here in San Antonio, and I was reporting over at KBB. And apparently there was a time when the PR directors came out and said, hey, we're looking for 2 reporters. It was me and Anthony Pittman. And he basically said, Jerry Jones saw your stories, wants to invite you to dinner tonight. Come on out. So me and my first wife, we went out there. Anthony went out there with a friend, and we went to Ruth's Chris, ordered some food. We ate together. Jerry Jones came by to say hi. Jerry Jones stayed there for like an hour, just hanging out and just bullshitting with us.
Yeah.
Having drinks and smoking cigars. He didn't sit down in the same booth.
Yeah.
But while we were eating, he was standing over us.
Yeah.
So he seemed to be a pretty good guy. He did ask me to become a Cowboy fan, though.
You rescinded?
Yeah. I told Jerry Jones to his face that I had no intention to be a Cowboy fan. And you know what? I think I chose right. They haven't done dick since, man.
True enough, man.
That's Joe Garcia, producer of the Alamo City Sports Cast. Don't forget, we have Rudy Campos Jr. with Sweep the League that goes on Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
The drive time show from 4 o'clock. We need to get him back on the show. I think we do it on Wednesdays, right?
Yeah, Rudy's on Wednesday. Carolina Teague, I'm going to get with her. See, we have Tuesdays with Teague.
Very nice. Very nice. Everyone have a fantastic day. My name is Mike Jimenez. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. If you want to buy us a coffee, you can. QR code on the top left. Again, we're at 770 strong, making the march to 1,000. I promise the second that we get to 1,000, we're going to throw a party. And you guys are invited, especially those who are the ones who are the diehards of the show. Thank you so much. We love having you guys here. We love doing the show for you. See you guys tomorrow. Go Tigers.